Daily coronavirus cases have doubled in the last 3
COVID
weeks.
cases nationwide have been doubling.
The reality is we are dealing with a much different strain of this
New
virus.
COVID milestones, more than 100,000 a day.
Daily new COVID hospitalizations have exploded.
This is American tragedy.
More than 18 months since the pandemic, the United States is still a divided state over mask wearing.
And the CDC is revising its mask guidance.
So the masks are back on indoors.
Wearing a face covering.
I am ending the statewide mask mandate.
Which is it?
It's frustrating, it's confusing, they're sending mixed messages constantly.
Making masks mandatory would adversely impact the local economy.
The country was so miserable and so off balance for so long.
Masking became so politicized, it basically split us into two Americas.
It's a little like the regular flu.
It's going to disappear. It is disappearing.
When I see the disinfectant, it knocks it out in a minute. I'm a believer in masks. I didn't lie.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
The mad rush to reopen is on.
You want the economy to reopen permanently.
States are lifting restrictions, some dramatically, some completely, even as health experts warn, do not do that.
California is, quote, currently experiencing the fastest increase in COVID-19 cases during the entire pandemic.
Governors have lost trust and confidence.
These interventions have failed time and time again throughout this pandemic.
Just last month, nearly 40 maskless House Republicans circled inside the Capitol in protest of the mask mandate.
I think the decision not to observe the COVID control protocols, this was certainly a political move, and it cost America a lot of lives.
But the demand for vaccines is dropping, and thousands of doses are set to expire.
Very short-sighted. Yes, they should keep the vaccines they need, but the extras, and to allow vaccines to expire and to use vaccines as a policy instrument to punish and reward and to dangle in front of poor countries. That sort of nationalism is terrible.
The COVID-19 pandemic has disproportionately affected people of color in the US. A survey conducted by US analytics company The Harris Poll revealed that nearly 1 in 4 Latina women in the US have reported losing a family member to COVID-19. The United States topped Bloomberg's COVID-19 resilience ranking in late June.
America first.
That's funny, yet here supposedly had the most worst cases of COVID.
I think it's laughable. Objectively, I think Bloomberg was way off the mark.
It's more of a political stunt. The index that Bloomberg has just released about the resilience, it's very subjective.
COVID-19, the Chinese virus, Kung Flu.
As COVID-19 infections and deaths spiked, US politicians resorted to the blame game. A Fox News anchor claimed it was Dr. Anthony Fauci that had helped to create COVID in the first place.
From the guy who created COVID.
Congressman Clay Higgins said the virus had been weaponized for biological attacks.
And based on the evidence that we were given, we thought that a laboratory leak was unlikely, highly unlikely.
Despite the WHO's conclusion, the US government ordered the intelligence community to produce an origin tracing report in 90 days, something experts say is clearly politically charged. Professor Matthew Kavanagh pointed out that if the aim of the US government was to find a scientific explanation of COVID-19's origin, it would have tasked health institutes instead of intelligence agencies with the research.
قضية كورونا هي قضية مسيسة بالدرجة الأولى وقضية مسيسة من اللحظة الأولى ومسؤول عنها الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية تماما.
And the WHO is under pressure to investigate for a lab leak. A South African expert suggested in a published article that the Fort Detrick lab in the US should be seriously investigated as an origin of COVID-19.
The United States is a country of contradictions. It's one that espouses high ideals, human rights. It is at the same time the one country that violates those ideals repeatedly.
It has a flawed system. I mean, since Trump left office, they are still grappling with the fact that they are unable to fully contain the virus. So I think the partisan politics between the Republicans and the Democrats is a liability to what is needed to save America as a nation.